The NBA draft is in the books, and the Phoenix Suns have their fans excited. But what about an outside perspective for that PHNX Suns is bringing in No Ceilings own Stephen Gillaspie. He was on our show before the draft, breaking down some names that he likes, but now we know which prospects the Phoenix Suns are going to be adding to their roster. Khaman Maluach, Rasheer Fleming, and Koby Brea. One hell of the night over here in Phoenix, Stephen. We are raving about this trio of rookies. What are your overarching thoughts on the Suns haul?
Well, what's up, Eric? And what's up, Suns fans? I'm glad to be back here. It's awesome to be back. You guys should be excited. I think that the haul was great. I don't know how much more you could have asked for with the way that the board broke 1 through 9, who you had available to you at 10, and then later on in the draft. I thought that you executed it flawlessly. I think that there were jokes made from the outsider's perspective that maybe Jace Richardson was going to be the guy that was supposed to be taken at 10, but it was good to see Phoenix go after probably the big man with the highest upside, which you went kind of best player available and position of need. I love that so much for you guys, but the draft was just a lot of fun in general. I'm excited to be back and dive into it a little bit deeper.
Before we get into specifically the Sun stuff, what was the biggest surprise from you from the 2 days of the 2025 draft?
Man, I can't get cute here. It's got to be Young Hansen. That's how we're pronouncing it now that he's properly in the NBA. I mean, one, because he is huge, and then two, a lot of people didn't see this coming. Now, a few of us at No Ceilings, myself and my guy Corey Tulaba, we were both throughout this process, especially once we saw him kind of post combine. It was like, really wouldn't be surprised if he returned top 20 value. That was not us kind of prognosticating that he would be in the top 20, but relative to where he was taken, it wouldn't have been crazy for him to be a top 20 prospect within this class, because even though he comes from an unconventional league in the CBA, when you see that, we saw it with the Thompson twins in the overtime elite. We've seen this with like LaMelo Ball in the NBL. Those are unconventional leagues, not one-for-one translatable skills or play styles that you see that similarly carry over to the NBA. But what we saw from those guys was traits, and that's exactly what Young Hansen had in the CBA. One, he's huge. Two, he shows like this high level of feel and processing. A lot of people now are comparing him. They're calling him like the Chinese Joker because he has a very similar style of play. And then these interviews, man, he's killing it. They're asking him like what he likes to do. He's like, I like to sleep, I like to eat, and play PS5. And we're all like, dude is just like us. Like, how could you not? How could you not want to be a Young Hansen fan after that? That's got to be the biggest riser.
You know, and we'll talk about this. That reach might have given the Suns their second round selection when they traded up to get Rashir Fleming, who fell. But before we get there, let's get to Malawatch, who said that the Suns executed seemingly flawlessly in the draft. And you know, for a first-time GM, I think that's really high praise. I gave them an A+ for the draft. For the Malawatch pick specifically, you and I were talking a little bit behind the scenes. You told me you're not as high on him. What would your individual grade for drafting Malawatch at 10 for the Suns be?
Now, in a vacuum, it's hard, right? For when you're at a draft collective, when you're like, okay, if I was picking each pick for the entire league, this is how I would grade these prospects. But if you look at teams and like their need, who's the best play available that might be able to fit that need, I think the Suns did a fantastic job picking the player who kind of fits both molds. I would give it a strong A. I'm not a big A+ guy. I feel like there's always room for improvement. You can call me whatever, that's okay. But I think it's a strong draft pick in of itself because, listen, I've told you the reasons behind the scenes, Eric, that I don't think that his hands are always consistent. He's not the most intense rebounder in basketball. There's times where he just plays too politely on the court. He's not a big enough jerk, or he doesn't have a lot of mean streak in his game, but he has shown signs to be able to defend in multiple areas on the court, be a reliable drop big man, shut the doors for anybody to even try to get a shot over the top of him. And those are very useful skills for a big man coming up in the NBA. And I've made this joke before that he's only been playing basketball as long as Ryan Kalkbrenner has been playing college basketball, so he's still got a long way to go in his individual developmentary curve. I just think that it's a great pick for the Phoenix Suns because of what they needed, and you can't get higher upside than him because he's also a lot of people project him to be a good shooter. And if he can space the floor on top of doing all the big man things well, it's a big deal, man. It's huge.
How do you feel about his jump shot? Because that's something that Brian Gregory mentioned. And obviously, seconds before Malawatch was selected, the Suns traded for another center, another young Duke center in Mark Williams from the Charlotte Hornets. Those two seemingly right now would not be able to play together, but Jordan Ott is a coach in Cleveland that played Mobley and Allen together. Do you feel like Malawatch's shot has the potential to be good enough for him to play the 4 in the modern NBA?
I don't know about the 4. That might be a stretch. I don't know if I trust his foot speed well enough to moonlight as a 4, but I do think that he could potentially be a stretch 5 if everything hits right in the mold of, like, say, a Brook Lopez, Splash Mountain himself. Because Brook, it took him a long time to extend his game out to deep, but once we saw the cracks in that dam from his three-point shot breaking, it was a full-on rush of just consistent 3-point consistency on his part. So I don't know, man. So my buddy Tyler Metcalf at No Ceilings just released actually a video breaking down the fit for Khaman Maluach and the Phoenix Suns and how his game could translate to the NBA. And he did feature the shot. And if you look at the mechanics, they're pretty pure, they're clean. The shot does take a little bit of time to get off, but there's a lot of mechanisms within that shooting motion that he has to get going for the shot to be released. I think that the shot could get there, but I just don't know if he's going to give you consistent minutes at the 4. It would be interesting, though, if Phoenix could identify a 4-man to play next to him, like, say, a Ryan Dunn, who hasn't been able to, like, shoot consistently yet. Malawatch being able to space the floor for him could yield in some fantastic rotational schematics for this team.
You mentioned the fact that he hasn't played a ton, and some of the concerns that you have come with aggressiveness. Do you think that's something that, not just with Malawatch, but young players in general, if you're not showing that when you get drafted, do you think that's something that you can still add to your repertoire in the league?
I mean, I would like to think so. I would like to think that you can add some level of, feistiness, some sort of mean streak within your game as you get going. Because again, his developmental curve is rapidly progressing all at once. So he hasn't had as much opportunity as some of these other guys growing up playing AAU ball to fill themselves and have that many people in their corner telling him how good he is, right? So there's a little bit of just unfamiliarity with the American style of play within his game relative to the rest of the class. So I think once he starts really feeling like he belongs in the NBA, and he might, that's where we can see that confidence really start to boost, because I feel like he's still in a lot of ways trying to catch up to things. I mean, going to play for Duke, playing next to one of the smartest players in this class in Concanipple and another supercomputer in Cooper Flagg, he's probably thinking, okay, these are the guys that I got to glean off of and learn from, and then also learn the spots that they want me to be in. And they're not at their highest form yet either. But if you're talking about a bunch of teenagers and early 20-year-olds, he is still learning so much from those guys. And I feel like that as he grows more confident and comfortable in his skills and abilities, he could probably start to lean into that mean streak a little bit more.
I want to talk about some of the strengths that we know for sure that Malawatch has. Obviously, he has an NBA-ready body. The vertical reach is insane. And he was a great rim runner, extremely efficient there, and great at deterring, blocking shots. On the defensive end, what do you think his ceiling is in the NBA?
Dude, it's not to pun off of our group, but there literally is no ceiling to how good this guy can be as a defender. I think that if everything breaks right, you could be looking at he could be this generation's Rudy Gobert, right? Like, he could be this generation's rim deterrent. You're talking about someone who can win multiple defensive players of the year because how important the center position is to anchoring a strong defense. I just think with the frame, he's shown the ability to defend out in space reliably. Again, I'll reference this Metcalf video that he posted today. There are several clips where he's showing and recovering, right? So he's helping off of his assignment to go and help clean up a mess that one of the other defenders on Duke had, where they got lost in the sauce, so to speak, defensively on their assignment. Malawatch would run up to them, show high hands, and then recover back to his assignment until another player needed his assistance to kind of go back and clean up their mess. So there's just so much potential for him just with the ground coverage that he has defensively, the high hands, the nonstop motor. His feet are always pumping, which is something that coaches will always preach. Keep your feet pumping, stay light on your feet, keep your hands high, and present yourself to be an impossible object to move defensively. That's exactly what Khaman Maluach could be at his highest form.
Man, I mean, you're getting me pumped. It's funny. I actually got into a debate with my co-host, Stephen, about Malawatch's defensive player of the year potential, right? And he actually disagreed with me and said that he doesn't believe that he could win defensive player of the year. And I said, pie in the sky, like the absolute best of the best. I think that he can, right? And now obviously it's hard. And how often do players like that truly work out to the max? I'm not saying that I'm going to put money on it, but I think with the skill set, I think with the body, with the work ethic, with the feet, I think playing soccer specifically, that's really big for me. I want to talk about Rasheer Fleming. I want to talk about Koby Brea. But before we wrap up on Khaman Maluach with Stephen Gillaspie of No Ceilings, do you have any final thoughts that we haven't touched on? Good, bad, something for Suns fans to keep an eye on during Summer League when they see him in action for the first time?
I just would be, if I was going to be at Summer League and pay particular attention to anything, it would be the communication and the volume, because you're backlining the defense. If you see Malawatch like really out there barking to people that he just hasn't worked with very much before and orchestrating and organizing that defense, that would give me a lot of confidence. The offense is going to come because we know that he's not necessarily going to be a play extender. He's purely going to be a play finisher. And at his highest level, if he does that as efficiently as he did in college in the NBA, that's okay. That's exactly what you want from the big man. I want to see how loud he is. I want to see how communicative he is on the defensive end and leading his teammates from that back line, putting them in the right spots, because he's going to have the height of eye and the perspective to know exactly who needs to be where. That's what I would be paying attention to, the intangible aspects of his game as opposed to blocking shots.
Fascinating. We'll definitely be keeping an eye out on that and some of the other stuff you mentioned with Malawatch as well. Let's move on to number 31, Rashir Fleming. Now, we are going to do about 10 minutes at the end of this conversation for everybody to hear. We're going to do 10 minutes just for Die Hard, where we're going to talk about why the hell did Rashir Fleming fall. So I'm not going to ask you that there, but let's just talk about him in a vacuum. Rashir Fleming in the modern NBA. Is this a win for the Suns to grab him at 31?
I think so. If you went over to NoCeilingsNBA.com, you would have saw our best remaining players article that we posted up immediately after 9-1, and headlining that article was Rasheer Fleming. A lot of us at No Ceilings really liked him in top 20 range. I went as high to have him in my top 12. I think Suns fans should be yes, I think that Suns fans should be pumped out of their minds that they got a legit first round talent to start the second round. I love the way that they orchestrated these kind of stacks of trades, this kind of accumulation of picks to go up and trade up and get their guy that they identified that they wanted, especially knowing that Khaman Maluach is going to be out there. Pairing him with the Rasheer Fleming, who does have a mean streak in his game, who does have that nastiness in his game, who also has a pro-ready body already at the age of, I think, 21, if I'm not mistaken, as a redshirt junior. I think that he is such a great get for y'all, especially knowing the fact that he extended his game to the three-point range this year at St. Joseph. Prior to this season, he had, and I'll say only in air quotes because it's still impressive, the level of defense and rebounding that he brought to his Hawks team. But this year, he really grew as a three-point shooter, Eric. He had over 100 contested three-point attempts this year for his team and shot 37% on contested three-point shots. When he was left open, you're looking at about a 40% shooter on over 50 open three-point attempts. I think it's fascinating, and it shows a lot of respect for his improvement as a three-point shooter that he had almost double contested threes as to opens, because the opposing coaches knew exactly that they could not leave this guy open because he was going to knock it down. And then on the other end, he was going to give it to you defensively. He would be a great weak side rim protector alongside of Khaman Maluach, and he's quick enough, has a long enough frame to go and grab steals as well. So you're looking at a guy who could come in and play that Ryan Dunn role a little bit, but I would say that he is further along in his jump shot. So there's a little bit of rotational flexibility that he gives his team long term.
I'm ready to run through a wall, Steven. Absolutely. I mean, to hear that he was in your top 12 and a lot of guys' consensus top 20, I felt the same way. When the Suns still had the 29th pick, I was, man, if Rashir Fleming's there, it's a home run pick, but I'm like, he'll be gone by 20, 22, 23, 24 at the latest. We'll talk about why he slid in our diehard only portion. Do you have any concerns about the competition level that he played in college and translating his game, his mean streak, his contested 3-point percentage, the defense and everything to an NBA level from the A10?
I mean, I always worry about it, even from the highest levels of competition. We've seen people play in the SEC, play in the ACC, play in the play in the Pac-12, whatever. Like, we've seen guys come from all these high-end levels of conferences, put up great numbers, but then get to the NBA and can't do it. Meanwhile, you have guys who had no business rising up to be high-level producers in the NBA based on where they were selected all the time, and sometimes even from less prestigious programs. I'm not necessarily worried about it because over the course of Rashir's career, he has played against some pretty good teams, even though he's been featured prominently in the Atlantic 10 conference. So knowing that non-conference play within college basketball is so expansive now with conference realignments and things like that, there's so many in-season tournaments that they run in college basketball, let alone like the NIT or the granddaddy of them all, the NCAA March Madness tournament. These teams are always playing against each other no matter what conference they're in. I just kind of put that stuff to the side. I mean, tell Dame Lillard that he didn't play in high level of competition whenever he came out, right? You could say the same thing to Steph Curry. The NBA is riddled of guys who have been successful despite the fact that they didn't play for these blue blood programs.
Any concerns with his game? Because everybody's so positive, and I get it. But what would you say is, like, if for some reason Rashir Fleming does not work out in the NBA, why would that be?
Well, the season that we saw from him, even though I'm a believer in the 3-point shot this year, this season was just kind of like an aberration from what we had seen from him previously, right? Like, it's just him almost kind of being in a contract year in the NBA, right? A lot of people put up their best stats when they got a lot of money on the line. Maybe Rashir thought that this would be the last real shot that I had at the NBA. I'm going to put everything I can into this 3-point shot, and it might not necessarily translate over to the NBA. I don't believe that, but crazy things happen in the NBA all the time. And then I would also say that if you're looking for a wink link in his armor is the fact that, like Kam Malawatch, he's not a play extender. He's not a high leverage passer. His assist to turnover ratio isn't like that of a supercomputer. He is kind of rudimentary when it comes to the overall holistic passing aspect to his game. Now, his passing has improved, particularly this year, so he might be on an upward trajectory in that regard, but he's not going to be someone that's going to break somebody down off of a dribble. He's not going to be probably somebody that you would expect to see be featured in DHO sets as like the handoff guy to, okay, I'm going to pull back the handoff, reject the handoff, and find somebody else that I know is going to be in this position on the other side of the court. You're not going to see him play that like 0.5 basketball, but he is a really reliable play finisher. His shot did expand out to a 3-point line this year, and his defense is just off the charts.
Yeah. Let's touch on Koby Brea real quickly. How did you feel about that pick at 41? I know some Suns fans wanted Tyrese Proctor there instead.
If I had to choose between the two, man, you guys got the right guy, 7 days, including Sunday, right? He has been one of the most prolific shooters in college basketball. When he was playing at Dayton and I was doing a show called Draft Deeper with Nathan Grubel and my current co-host Maxwell Baumbach, we kind of was like, is this some sort of like Klay Thompson variant? Because this guy's 3-point shot was just that automatic. And we thought that the defense might improve. The defense has improved, not to that of like a Klay Thompson level defender, but you're looking at a guy who shot in the 99th and 96th percentile respectively over the last 2 years in college basketball. You can't sneeze at that. And even though he might project to be a 2 and, Suns, if we're looking at the depth chart, we know we got a lot of 2s on here. He is about 6'7" and tennis shoes. So maybe you can get away with playing him a little bit of like small ball 3, if you will, and kind of help this rotation in that regard. But when you're picking in the middle of the second round, man, like if you can get somebody with an NBA ready skill set, like you can never go wrong doing that.
Yeah, music to my ears. I wanted them to target shooting with that 41st pick. I'm glad that they did. I'm also glad that you're taking the time to join us here. Stephen Gillaspie from No Ceilings. For those of you who want to hear more from him, become a diehard. We're about to do about 10 minutes behind the scenes, diehard only. We got some questions that I'm going to be asking him. We'll dive more into these 3 players, plus some more draft stuff going on. But if you do not have a diehard membership already, and you're not going to do that, but you still want to follow Stephen, let them know where they can find you and what you've been doing over at No Ceilings.
Yeah, so NoCeilingsNBA.com. We already have like a way too early 2026 mock draft that we have posted up on the site. Yeah, we have a problem, dude. We need to get checked out. Over at YouTube, No Ceilings NBA, our channel has grown a lot this year. If you already subscribed, thank you so much. Please consider going over and doing that, where we talk about everybody that you could possibly think might get drafted down the line. I promise you, we touch on like 98% of those guys, if not more, as the season progresses. And then if you want to follow little old me, you can follow me on X or Twitter, whatever you call it, at Stephen G Hoops.
Awesome. We appreciate you. We'll be tapping in again very soon. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for more draft content coming your way.
We all silly like the mayor.